All right, I have to talk about this transgenderism and from the perspective of being a female, all right, as being a woman source player in this game, because so much, so much has now been clarified for me in more ways that I'm going to get into, okay? So this has really sparked a lot for me personally. Now, I watch TikTok every day. And one of the celebrities that I have been following on TikTok for a couple of years now has been Bethany Frankel. Here's the thing. Bethany was on Real Housewives of New York way back in the day. And Real Housewives franchise is on Bravo. Bravo is a notoriously gay channel. It's gay. It's a gay channel. It always has been when it was started way back in like the 80s, okay? It's a gay channel, always has been, always will be. Andy Cohen is very prolifically gay in New York City, okay? So does it track that he's good friends with Sarah Jessica Parker? Does it track that Bethany with the man jowls would be on Real Housewives of New York City? Wasn't married at the time, but she was on the show. Okay? And now when I look at Bethany, and Bethany used to live in Greenwich. She just moved to Greenwich. She moved from Greenwich to Miami or to Boca or Palm Springs, wherever the hell she is. But now that I look at Bethany, and especially because she's been in Sports Illustrated twice now. She just was in it now. So she's been very, very scantily clad. But she has been regularly on her account. And what I liked about Bethany was Bethany's clothes, because she really picked pretty clothes. Pretty clothes. All right? And it's so blaringly obvious now. Once you watch Next Wex and you see what he's pointing out, or he or she is pointing out, you can't unsee it. And so now I see the man shoulders and the man collarbones and the back, Bethany's back, and I see it, and I see Bethany's man ass, and I cannot unsee it. I cannot unsee it. And I'm like, wow. And I had started to take inspiration by the way she was like dressing and stuff like that, because she's around the same age as me, allegedly, okay? Just in leaning into being more pretty clothing, more feminine, whatever, okay? Like I was definitely doing that. And then now I look at like Alona Mar. Alona Mar is glaringly obvious, because I've been trying to figure out for the longest time, like, why her chest wasn't bigger, because it just honestly, now it makes sense why her boobs are not massive, because she's a man. Okay? Very and even just look at the structure of her face, okay? Man, playing rugby, man, okay? So now there's that. And I've been playing around with Gemini, looking at different celebrities. And I did the first one. I did Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney came out very boyish looking when I said, give it a man's hairstyle and remove the makeup, and boom, boy. Okay. So there's that. And then I did Bethany, man. I did, a few other people. I did Barry Keoghan. Look at his face. Look at his face when he was younger. Look at Barry Keoghan younger and look at Barry Keoghan now. You can see that he's had more masculization done to his face. Another one to look at is Zac Efron. He has gone so far above and beyond looking like, masculine. When look at Zac Efron back in the day, okay? But let's go more into the male to females, the MTFs, okay? Look at the girls next door. The girls next door. All right? The girls next door. Kendra, Holly, the other one. Okay? Now, what clicked for me, what solidified for me, because again, I talked about the fashion industry. The fashion industry is gay. It is gay. The fashion industry not only is gay, but the fashion industry has always been exclusionary. It has always been that way. If you did not fit the standard, you did not get the expensive, pretty clothing. You couldn't, like you just, it wasn't for you. You don't get, if you are above a size 12, forget, I'll even extend it to a 16, okay? Because most of the higher brands like Dolce & Gabbana and Gucci, I think will go to like a European 16 or an Italian 16, whatever like that. So you could be a larger person on the larger side, but not obese, and still wear those brands. But for the most part, the fashion world has always been an exclusionary place. Now, when I really examine, okay, because I think about how back in the 80s, I was always big, all right? I was a fat child. I was a very obese teenager, which when I look back on how much of it, I mean, don't get me wrong, I consumed a lot of food, but I also can't help but wonder, like, if I had well, they don't call it PCOS anymore. They've now called this something else. They started calling it something else, but I have to wonder if I have that. I don't know. It never even crossed anybody's mouth that I be diagnosed with that. I digress. In the 80s, I had my choice of very matronly clothing. That was it. And it was so ugly and it was so frumpy and old that I hated being fat. Like, I hated being fat. I hated my body. I hated being fat. Okay? Now, let's not even go into the health factors, okay? It's just I hated being so freaking fat as a kid. As a 13 or 14, 15-year-old, just starting to, I've just started to really, progress into puberty, and I'm 280 pounds, okay? And so junior year, I finally drop weight, and I get down to about 180. So I dropped about 100. I actually, at one point, I think I got down to like 170 something pounds. So I had dropped more than 100 pounds my junior and senior years. So I was able to wear clothes again. And a lot of the time, at that point, I was more dressing like hip hop kind of, because I could wear Levi's, men's Levi's, and I could wear men's Gap jeans and stuff like that. So I was kind of gravitating into that menswear kind of unisex style, okay? And because that's what I could fit into, and trying to fit into obviously smaller size women's stuff. Think about the way the clothing is cut. Think about the way the clothing is cut and the way it falls on a person's body. It falls like that because it's cut for a man's body. It's cut for a boy's body. It's not cut for a woman's body that has breasts and has curvaceous hips. And I'm not even talking about a fat body. I'm talking about the standard female that is typically more pear. Usually we have a little bit of a smaller shoulder, which tracks for me because my top is significantly smaller than my bottom. Okay, it always has been. So the clothing that is designed that you're programmed to want to fit into and have and get and show that you belong, the validation was never meant for women. It was never meant for women. And then I look at now, there's such a backlash on plus size clothing now. And then, like different influencers like Remy Bader, like I've just been seeing it, not really understanding what was going on. Now it makes a lot of sense. Like they don't really make pretty clothes for bigger bodies. Because at one point I was trying to start a boutique, an online boutique of plus size clothing. And it was so difficult to find something that was current, stylish, and on trend. It's impossible to find. If you try to look for wholesale clothing, which is all from China, it's all manufactured in China, it's all ugly. And I kept saying, like, why is it so ugly? I would never wear this. Why is it so ugly? Why is it that they always put leopard print or camouflage, or what they'll do is they'll make plus size women's shirts, like the graphic shirts, it's like, Mickey Mouse characters or some kind, or like Winnie the Pooh, Disney characters or some other stupid thing like Snoopy. Like who wants that on their shirt? If you, I have select graphic tees, and my graphic tees, I have one that says Ew David from Schitt's Creek. I have some other ones that are concert tees, as you saw, like my MTV one. I have Stevie Nicks. I have a few others, okay? Blondie. Now this all Debbie Harry, Stevie Nicks. Oh my God, look at the names. So now look at the popular influencers. Alex Cooper. She has a podcast, Call Me Daddy. Then she's got this whole thing, this whole online drama. Apparently, Alex Earl is another Alex Earl. Alex Cooper. I did a little Gemini trickery on them too. Man, they are men. They are men. They are men. Okay? So, I can remember watching makeup videos back in like 2007, 2008. And I was actually trying to do my own makeup videos and stuff like that back then on YouTube. And I couldn't fully understand why everybody was doing drag makeup. Like it wasn't wearable makeup. It was draggish. It was like everything was bright colors. I mean, don't get me wrong. I liked it and I would play around with some of the stuff, like I was definitely getting good with it. But now that I know what I know, I realize that all these female influencers at the time were showing us was drag makeup. And don't get me wrong, I was watching drag queens as well and seeing the different techniques and watching gay makeup artists and stuff like that. So, the topic of like makeup is drag, it's drag, but there is a way to wear makeup where you're just still looking like I have never I hate wearing foundation. I hate wearing foundation. I don't have like pock marks on my skin. I've never really had a bad acne problem. And I certainly don't have any need to hide a 5 o'clock shadow. Okay? So now that I really everybody back then always did a full face of makeup. And then it came out several years ago, one of the biggest people that started to really rise up was Nikki Tutorials. Okay? And I could never put my finger on what it was about Nikki that was off. I could tell she was bigger, bigger, and I could tell she was very broad. I was like, okay, so this is a big chick, but not very chesty. And then it came out that somebody was blackmailing her, that they were going to reveal that she was transgender. Okay? I was watching Jeffree Star up until the last couple of days. Now I've certainly unfollowed and deleted certain people because now I understand what's going on. Not because they're gay, not because they're men. Well, I always knew Jeffree Star was a man, but because of what is behind all of this, okay? The normalization, the shoving it in our faces, shoving it down our throats, okay? But coming to because also I can't stand Marshalls and TJ Maxx anymore, even though I find myself in them all the time because that's literally all there is around here anymore. There's no good places to go shopping where I'm currently staying at. So I go in there all the time and I'm looking at this and I'm like, why do they consistently make ugly clothes for bigger people? Why? We've been telling them for years we wanted better clothes. And it's always the same thing. It doesn't sell. It does. Whatever. I digress. If you're not plus size, you might not really understand that. But the struggle has been the only place that I really have been able to find decent, pretty clothing has been Anthropologie and Old Navy. I've found consistently cute stuff there for the last few years. But it's few and far in between, what is actually out there. What's actually out there, okay? And now I understand because it's not about women. It's not about women, and it's about excluding somebody in an obese body. And I'm not saying it's okay to be obese. I'm not. But at the same time, you have to love your body. Regardless of what size it is, you have to love your body right now. You can't reject your body because rejecting your body is rejecting yourself. And that's something that came down to the self-love. Even though I was saying I love myself, I would look at my body and see how it is now at this age. And, I can see these things happening as I've dropped 65 pounds, 70 pounds. Different things are sagging, plus I'm 53. All these different things that are going on with my body from having lost weight over the years and gained it back and lost it and gained it back. And your body's only so resilient. The avatar is only so resilient. So, I look at different parts of my body and I'm not happy with them. I'm not embracing them. And now so much is clicking for me in so many ways. And I'm going so into this, I can't even fully flesh it all out on how much it's messed up and how it has really messed with the female's mind, with the female source players' minds, and how we identify and how we seek validation. And I'll even talk about porn for a minute because I remember one time seeing a pornographic video or pornographic image, and it was two girls on all fours, and I was looking at them and I'm like, these girls are so skinny. It's gotten to the point where they just want them so skinny now that they look like boys. From behind, they look like boys. And because they were boys dressed like girls. I'm just like, you know, as somebody who was, again, talking to gay men all the time, talking to men that, you know, were on this whole thing about being a female, wanting to be a woman, they covet the female body. They covet it so much. And I always, you know, used to think I like the gay men who appreciate women, that actually like women, you know, but now I understand what's really going on there. It's really twisted. It's really twisted. But, you know, I'm not going to, you know, to each their own as far as your choices that you make. I've looked at Judy. Judy wears a, you know, modest amount of jewelry. She wears earrings. She wears a ring or a cape. You know, she wears a necklace. So for me personally, this is me. Okay, this is me. I'm going to continue wearing the stuff that I like, you know. But again, everybody has their choices to make, you know. I have tattoos on my body that I got from the time I was 18 to the time I was like 20 something, 27. All right, I got a few tattoos. It is what it is, you know, like I don't regret them. Well, this one's I don't regret getting them, you know? So, but then when I look at different things as far as like self-mutilization, I don't know. I always found it beautiful. I wish mine were nicer, but it is what it is. You know, I can either have it removed or have them covered up, you know? But yeah, I will say this. It has definitely given me a better appreciation of my own body in its femaleness, and to feel less effed up about it. Because even okay, look at my eyelids. I have very droopy eyelids, okay? And I always have. And I remember when I used to try to do my eyeshadow, I used to have to, you know, like stretch them so I could get the makeup on and kind of fill the socket and kind of create, you know, a different thing. And I just couldn't. I was like, why is every influencer on YouTube, every makeup influencer on YouTube with those deep socket eyes? Because they were all dudes. All of them. Dudes. I remember looking at Cher. And even still, and then I'm going to end this, even still, okay? The other one that really solidified this for me was Michaela Noguera. She's on TikTok. She is on TikTok. And then I looked at her characteristics. I masculined her. I took all the feminization off of her on ChatGPT, and it's a boy. So I leave you with that, because we're still being shown drag makeup all the time, every day. I think it's perfectly fine. What I used to wear as a teenager into my 20s, and you know, whatever. And for the most part, I don't even wear makeup. I wear it occasionally at this point, but it was always it was always mascara, maybe eyeliner, some blush, and some lipstick. And that was it. And I never went, and it was like, I really never even did shadows that much. It wasn't until I started watching makeup influencers that I really started to get into eyeshadows. But a nice, you know, dusting, you know, a one color, maybe two colors on the eyelids, that's enough. If I'm going somewhere, if I want to look a decent way, or I want to be presentable in a video. But yeah, like, wow. That's all I'm going to say on this. Sorry it's so long, but I think it's really important as women and as men too. But I'm just obviously can only speak from my perspective on this. As a woman, you really need to Let that sink in and see if there's anything that you yourself have compared yourself to as not being good enough because of what you've seen in the media. All right? Okay. Bye.